What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Below the Belt Sports Countdown to Baseball. Today, we're doing some prop bets. So remember, if you're going to wager, do it responsibly. It's just something that you want to have fun with, mess around, get angry about, throw $10 or $20 here and there. Don't take our advice. We are not legally responsible for these bets you place. I think do we have a lawyer, Rob?
No.
My friend Tat's in law school, so if anyone wants to wager on these, follow what we say, and then complain when we get it wrong, I'll give you Tat's number. I'll actually put that in the comments. But gamble responsibly. We're gonna have a little bit of fun. So we're each gonna give you 5 picks, Rob and I. We're gonna give you one American League over and under, one National League over and under for team win totals, and then we're each gonna give one player prop bet that we'd like. We're looking for value with that. So, Rob, why don't you kick it off? We're going to start in the American League. Give me your American League team over win total. I'm pretty sure we're going off of Vegas Insider. All these, I was checking and comparing it with DraftKings and FanDuel. They're all within like a game or two. So, pretty on point in terms of what the over-unders are. So, give me your American League over.
So I think this is going to surprise some people, and it's not one of like the sexy American League teams. I think it's someone that people are forgetting about, just for the fact that I think there's been a lot more going on with the NL this offseason. And the AL has kind of been focused on the Yankees and the White Sox. But my over for the AL is going to be the Mariners. Their win total right now is set at 72.5. And that AL West, I mean, I like the Astros. I actually kind of like the Athletics. I'm not too high on the Angels. I do kind of hope Ohtani figures it out because I think that would be cool to see. But in terms of like the teams that are there, I'm not like crazy high on them. And I think that the Mariners kind of can rise above that. They have a lot of talent. And I think that based on all that's happened with this offseason with them, I think it was their owner, right? Or was it their general manager that was like saying like they were manipulating all the service time, like on the Zoom?
Yeah, I think he was like the team president.
Yeah, like the team president. I don't even want to learn his name. So fuck him.
It's so irrelevant.
Yeah, so irrelevant. But like the idea is that a lot of these guys have a chip on their shoulder. Like Kyle Seager, like his wife literally tweeted, like, "Are we gonna move?" Like these guys are going into the season like motivated, and I think I don't want to say the AL West is wide open to the degree because I think the Astros and the Athletics and even the Angels are better teams. But at 72.5, I really like the Mariners. I think they're going to play near 500. I think it's going to be a little lower. Like I think they're going to probably get around like that 79 to 81 win mark. I think they're going to kind of hit that. But I mean, when you look at their roster, you got Paxton on a prove-it deal. Kind of coming back home in a way where he really made a name for himself. You have Justice Sheffield, still learning, still getting better. I don't think he's as much as people were hoping he'd be, but he's still talented. You're looking at Margot Gonzalez, who's still a really good pitcher. People forget about him. He's a really talented arm lefty. So like they got like this whole lefty rotation. And I'm gonna butcher this name. I'm sorry to him. Yusei Kikuchi, the Japanese pitcher that they signed last year. He didn't have a great 2020, but I mean, we've said it before, not putting a lot of stock into that season. Obviously, coming over in a free agency year, that's kind of tough, adjusting to a whole new country with all this going on. So he was supposed to be uber talented, kind of similar to what Darvish was when he came over. So, I mean, he's not a bad fourth option at all. And you got Kyle Lewis coming up, Kelenic, once they kind of bring him up, he's on the horizon. Evan White on that team, at first base. So obviously Kyle Seager, like I said. So, I mean, they have talent on that team. And I think 72.5 wins is low for them. I mean, for all the reasons that I said. So they're my over in the AL 100%.
Yeah, I actually like that pick a lot. I'm high on the Mariners again. Like you said, I don't think they're going to go and win the division. I still think they're probably the third or fourth best team in the West, but 72.5 is low for, like you said, a young, hungry team with talent. So I think 72.5, that's a number that they could easily surpass. I stayed in the AL West actually for my over, and I went with the Houston Astros. They had them listed at 86.5. I think this is the Astros division. As much as I hate them as a Yankee fan, as great as it was to see them struggle in the 60-game season last year, like you just said, I'm not going to put a ton of stock into that, especially when that team also just went to a Game 7 of the ALCS. I know we saw them lose George Springer. Verlander's still hurt. There's no Garrett Cole. They don't have a bad rotation at all. You still have Zach Greinke. They bring in Odorizzi. You look at, Framber Valdez is hurt, but I do like some of the other guys they have there, Jose Urquidy. And then you look at that lineup. I know Springer's gone, like I just said, but you still have Bregman, who I think is going to have a huge year. Correa in a walk year. They retain Michael Brantley. They're getting Yordan Alvarez back. I don't like Jose Altuve, but I think he's going to bounce back as well. It's a really good lineup. They have pitching, and that West is so weak. I don't like the Angels, as I've said many times before. I'm down on the A's right now. The Rangers are god-awful, and the Mariners, even though I do like them to eclipse that 72.5 win mark, they're just not on par with a team like the Astros. So for all those reasons, I think 86.5 is a pretty low number. I expect the Astros to win somewhere in the 90s, maybe 91, 92 games, somewhere around there. So I'm going to take them as my over.
Yeah, I agree with you on everything on that. As much as people want to hate on the Astros, and it's fun to see them fail because they cheated their asses off. You still got to, game respects game. Like, you still got to acknowledge that they are one of the better teams in baseball. For whatever the hell they built over there, they did do a good job of putting together a decent roster.
And listen, the last time we saw them play 162 games, I get it. You're talking about taking away Justin Verlander and taking away Garrett Cole and George Springer. They won 107 games. So do I think they're going to win 20 games less than that against what's a depleted division? I don't see it. I think that they're going to be somewhere in the 90s. And as much as, like you said, I would love to see them fail, I think that they are going to represent the West in the playoffs.
Yeah, I'm not as high on Valdez as a lot of people are. When you looked at like his numbers, his like hard hit ratio, like he was in like the 5th percentile. Like he was one of the pitchers that got hit the hardest last year. But I think I'm really high on McCullers. I do think that he has ace caliber stuff. So I think that, I doubt we see Verlander this year. I mean, who the hell knows? But in terms of like what they have on their staff, I do think McCullers can be that ace for them. I mean, I like Greinke obviously, but I think McCullers his ceiling is still sky high.
Mm-hmm. No, and like you just said, I mean, think of all these
I
names.
didn't get that. Could you try again?
Did you hear that?
Yeah, what the hell?
That was Siri.
That's so.
I think because I said ceiling, my Mac went to Siri. Oh,
dude, are the Astros listening to this right now?
Did they just hear me say everything?
Are the Astros stealing the signs of our show right now? That's kind of crazy. That's next level shit.
Did they hack my computer? I mean, it is new.
I'm putting in a call to the commissioner's office tomorrow morning. Manfred needs to know.
That was crazy. Did you hear like the Siri thing? Like, did that come across?
Yeah, that actually creeped the shit out of me. I'm not even gonna lie to you.
What? Okay.
All right. Well, moving on to the National League, we're just gonna chalk that up to what?
Yeah.
National League. Rob, give me your National League over. Oh no, I'm sorry. Fuck no. We gotta do American League under.
Yeah, I was gonna say dude. The Astros threw us off.
We're not gonna hop back and forth. Yeah, no, I can't even. My brain is just such a mush these days. It's actually ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. Yeah. So my under in the AL is the Minnesota Twins. I think they are ranked ridiculously high, 88.5. Like, that's like a really, really good season. Like, I would be happy with that. I don't think I would be happy with that if that was the Yankee situation. But like, if I'm like a team that's kind of like, hey, I think my team's good, 8.5, 88 wins, or 89 in this case, if you want to go with the over, is good. But I don't think the Twins are good. So I'm going with their under. Kente Maeda is not having a second in Cy Young season again. They've lost Eddie Rosario to the Cleveland baseball team. They added J.A. Happ. So, I mean, say what you want about
minus
that.
-5 wins right there. On that.
That's -5 to 10 wins right there. I just think that overall they're a 500 team. I just don't see, and maybe it's because I think that the White Sox and the Cleveland baseball team are more exciting than the Twins, and the Twins are just kind of bland all the way around. But I just don't think that they have the talent like all around, honestly. Like, I like Mitch Garver as a catcher, honestly. I think he's one of the better catchers in the game, but like outside of like him and Berrios, like I'm not really too excited about anyone on their team. So I'm going with the under for them. They just 88.5 is just way, way, way too high for me.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I don't think the Twins are going to be bad this year by any stretch. I do think they'll be in the playoff mix, if not a wild card team. But you said they're just not sexy. They're not going to have as good of a lineup as the White Sox. The White Sox have also surpassed them in terms of rotation, I think, too, with what they did going out and getting Lance Lynn. And then, yeah, they'll hit better than Cleveland, but Cleveland has a way better rotation than them. So I think the Twins are just kind of in no man's land where I don't think they're as good as the White Sox. They'll probably compete with the Indians, but then they're still better than the Tigers and the Royals. So they'll win their fair share of games. But I'm with you. I think 88.5 is definitely a little bit high for them.
I think they're literally going to be 500. They are the most middle ground team. They're going to be 81 and 81. Like, I think that's like a lock, like right there, like right in that middle spot.
Yeah, I could see it. So my AL under, I'm going to stay in the West. I've said it many times on this show. I've ranted about it. Show me how the Los Angeles Angels are going to win 83 and a half games. I don't see it. I really don't. The last time we saw this team play 162, they won 72 games. And I know what you're going to say to me, but Stanzo, they added Anthony Rendon. Ohtani's going to come back and pitch. Sure, maybe. Could you look back on this in 6 months and say, wow, the Angels had 90 wins and cruise to the West title? Maybe, but they need so much to go right. Like, I know people have been talking on Twitter today about the Yankees rotation having question marks, and they do. There's almost no rotation outside of probably the Dodgers and the Padres where you have multiple guys set in stone, like 3-4 guys that you feel really, really good about going into the season. The Angels don't have one. I got into a Twitter fight with an Angels fan the other day. He was telling me, like, yeah, Ohtani's 10 starts in 2018 prove he's a Cy Young candidate. Sure, he could be really good. We haven't seen him pitch since then. He was talking about Dylan Bundy got one Cy Young vote in a 60-game season. He said Canning is the third best UCLA pitcher other than Cole and Bauer. It's just like, what are we even talking about here? I expect the Angels to score a million runs because any lineup with a 3-4-5 of Trout, Rendon, and Ohtani, or wherever they bat those guys, is going to score runs. They have bats, and they'll beat up on, the Rangers a little bit. I'm sure, they'll win their games against the Mariners. I just don't think they're as good as the A's, and I definitely don't think they're as good as the Astros. I think 83.5 is a big number. I expect them to be maybe somewhere in the mid to high 70s, so I'm taking the under on the Angels.
Yeah, I agree. And how many times have we said, as much as we want to see the Angels be good, it's just not going to happen. And let's say Ohtani does come in and have a great season.
Great. I hope he does.
Great. Who's next?
Yeah.
Who pitches on the other 4 days?
Yeah.
You're looking at Dylan Bundy. I kind of like Andrew Heaney, honestly. He's a good pitcher, but like, he's a 4. He's a 3 or a 4 in a good rotation. And then like Dylan Bundy, again, Jose Quintana, like what are we doing here? I couldn't name you one guy in their bullpen. And like, how many times have we talked about that being like a necessary strength over the course of a long season? Mm-hmm. Like it just doesn't make sense to me. As much as I want them to be good, it's not going to happen. And I do think actually Ohtani's going to have a really good year. It's going to be nowhere near enough. Nowhere near.
And you could talk about teams with question marks in the rotation, whether it's the Yankees, the Mets now with Carrasco going down, even the Astros. I get it. There aren't teams that just have their rotation set in stone where you're like, yep, this is the 5 we're rolling with. I feel really good about it. I get it. There's question marks. But those teams all have guys with upside. Like you're talking about, like, can Jameson Tyone stay healthy after Tommy John? Or will Marcus Stroman, who, as much as I don't like the guy, has been a very successful pitcher at the major league level. The Angels have guys who are question marks. And the question mark is, are you even a major league caliber pitcher? Like, outside of Ohtani, who we've seen do it for 10 games, and I get it, he's extremely talented. The guys with question marks in the Angels, we don't know what they are even remotely. So I just think it's a long season over 162. I think they weren't even able to hide their lack of pitching in a 60-game season. I don't know how they're going to be able to do it over 162.
Yeah, I agree entirely. I agree.
So moving over to the National League now. Rob, give me your over in the National League.
So it kind of surprised me that these guys were this low, and it might, in a way, it will kind of contradict a pick I have later, but I do think that they're going to be higher than this number. And my over in the National League is the Milwaukee Brewers. They're at 82.5 right now. And I mean, I love Christian Yelich. I don't think that their offense overall has enough pieces. I do think it's kind of scattered. I like Keston Huerta. I'm sorry, again, not a pronunciation podcast, but he's actually super talented. He's a really good second baseman. Outside of that, like they kind of have some, just like it's not consistent in their lineup. Like it's just not a lot of guys that like I'm really excited about. Like Orlando Arcia is not bad, but like it is what it is. But I really like their pitching. Overall, I think Woodruff is a stud. Freddie Peralta is supposed to have a really good year, and then their bullpen, like Corbin Burns, obviously Josh Hader, Devin Williams, just all around. I think they have the talent on the pitching staff all around. Whoever you want to slide these people in, even if some of these guys get spot starts, Burns kind of becomes more of a starter, like whatever it winds up being, however they work it out, they have the talent in that overall bullpen to have a successful year and kind of help with the shortcomings of their offense. So I think that 82.5 in a relatively weak NL Central, it should be pretty easy for them to accomplish. I think they kind of fall in like the 84 to 86 win spot.
No, I'm definitely with you on that. I like the Brewers a lot. I don't know if they'll win the division. I'm between them and the Cardinals. I think they'll both make a run at it, but I don't like the other three teams in the Central at all. I think 82.5 is a low number for them. So yeah, I'm definitely with you there. My over is the Atlanta Braves. And when I first got the Braves in my head, I had been seeing, some of the Pacoda projections that had them in like the low 80s. So I was a little surprised to see them at 91.5 here. I think this is right around where they should be, though. I think the Braves are going to win 95, 96 games this year. And the division, if you look at what the NL East did this year, I think they're going to be top to bottom, the most competitive division in baseball. I don't think there's any pushovers. I don't see the Marlins making the playoffs again. I think they'll come down to earth considering their minus 41 run differential in 60 games actually got them to win a playoff series on the road. That's how crazy 2020 was. But I don't think they're awful. I don't think they're the Pittsburgh Pirates. Then you look at, the Phillies still have a really good lineup. Aaron Nola, Zach Wheeler. The Nationals got better this offseason, and the Mets got a lot better this offseason. I think the Mets are definitely going to give the Braves a run for their money in the division. But the Atlanta Braves, they got better. They bring back Marcell Ozuna. Mike Soroka will return at some point. Really liked what I saw out of Ian Anderson last year. Max Fried had a really good 2020. Hopefully he could build on that. And then they bring in Charlie Morton, who as your 3 or 4 pitcher. I mean, I know he's up there in age, but he's showed us in the playoffs he could still throw the ball. So I really, really like this Braves team. I think that they should be mentioned more in the conversation of top teams in the National League. I do still think it's the Dodgers and everybody else, but when you're talking about the teams that could potentially challenge the Dodgers, I see everyone saying the Padres and the Mets, which I agree with. I think you need to mention the Atlanta Braves. I think that they've been too good for too many years now with that lineup, that rotation. Bullpen's a question mark, but we've seen teams piece together bullpens before. I really like the Braves a lot going into 2021.
Yeah, and you almost like, after all the positives you said about the Braves, I agree with you on all of them. You didn't even mention Acuna and Albies and the fact that they're going to get better. They're still like 23, 24 years old. They're going to get better. So, I mean, add in all that, add in Freddie Freeman.
The MVP.
They lost Nick Markakis, if you want to count that, but I'm sure they'll find a replacement for him somehow. He actually was talented. I shouldn't rip on Nick Markakis, but he actually
Nick Markakis was good. That was kind of fucked up.
Yeah, sorry.
We'll send a fruit basket to the Markakis family immediately.
Yeah, Astros, if you're listening to this, apologize to Nick Markakis.
Yeah, send Nick Markakis something. The Astros are still on
here. Yeah. No, but you're right. Like all those people that you mentioned, and then you got to count the best players on their team, and they're just going to get better. Like Acuna has 40-40 talent, Albies 20-20, aspects, and then Freddie Freeman MVP. So like it's unreal. I think they're in the conversation with the Dodgers, Padres, and Yankees.
No, I'm in love with this team's rotation just because I think it's a good mix of veterans and young guys. So much so that I almost forget that the 3, 4, 5 of their lineup is Acuna, Freeman, and Ozuna. Like you can make a case that's the best middle of the order in all of baseball. Like those guys are ridiculous. So Braves are my over. Shifting over to unders. Rob, who's your NL under?
So almost this is a good transition because it's almost how high I am on the Braves. It makes me lower on this team, and that's the Washington Nationals. They're under, or their win total right now is set at 84.5. And I think the Mets got obviously a lot better. The Braves got better. And yeah, the Nationals added Josh Bell. But I don't feel like they got better. If anything, I feel like they got worse. I think that Corbin's going to have a better year than he did in 2020. Like he was like 2-7 with like an 80 ERA. Like he was bad in 2020. But I do think he'll have a bounce back year. But you got to think that the fact that Scherzer is 1 year older, still got gross stuff. But I mean, how much longer can he do this? I mean, Verlander has been keeping it up, and they're kind of in like that same age range. But I don't think that Scherzer is going to give you top 5 pitcher, numbers anymore. It would be fascinating for me to see him put up those type of numbers. I think he's still top 10. But it would be tough to see that. Strasburg's coming off an injury. It was like carpal tunnel in his wrist or something, like some weird injury. Then they put him on the 60-day DL last year. So there's huge strength in their rotation is kind of now like a question mark. And that kind of scares me because, yeah, they have Juan Soto, arguably the best player in baseball. But how much can the man do? We talk about Mike Trout. We've seen it with Mike Trout, how just one man can't beat the whole league by himself as good as he is. So maybe the rotation kind of comes together in the way we kind of think it will with the big names that are involved. But I think there's too many question marks around it right now to be like, this is in a plus 500 team. So I'm going to go with the under 84.5. I think they're good, but they're going to be in like that 3rd and 4th spot in the East.
Yeah, no, I think you said it well. I also think that if the Nationals are in maybe the NL Central, the AL West, maybe even the AL Central, I think we're talking about them differently. But the NL East, I said it before, that's going to be the best division top to bottom in baseball this year in my mind. I really like the Braves and I really like the Mets. I think they're both going to get theirs, win 90-something, if not maybe 100 games. And then you got to start to think how many wins are going to go around. The Marlins aren't going to be pathetic. The Phillies are going to, win their fair share of games too. I think they have a pretty decent team. I like what the Nationals did, but it wasn't anything to put them over the top. You look at the guys they got: Bell, Schwarber, Lester, and Brad Hand. Those guys are all veterans who at their best are all-stars and can make a huge impact. But on the flip side, they could decline. We don't know 100% what they're going to give us. Obviously, Juan Soto's Juan Soto. And their rotation, you said it, I do think Corbin's going to have a bounce back year. And if Strasburg and Scherzer are healthy, they're going to shove. So there is a world where we're talking about that, that rotation with Lester as your 4, putting them into a division race with the Mets and the Braves. That's definitely possible. I just think you're asking a lot. And given the division that they're in, I could definitely see things going south of them. So I think 84.5 is close to where I would have them, but I definitely do like that under.
It's like I could see that's the one I feel pretty confident about. The rest of the ones I said, that's the one where I could see myself being wrong, but that's like if everything for them goes right. You know what I mean? And I don't expect everything for a team to ever go right. You have to plan against that. And that's if Scherzer is Scherzer. I mean, not that he has any reason not to be. It's just he's a year older and his fastball is going to decline. It's going to happen. Strasburg coming off an injury. Corbin coming just off a bad year. So if everything goes right for them, yeah, sure. Do they have the ability to win 85+ games? Yeah, sure. But I mean, again, you're knocking on everything going right for them.
Absolutely. So for my under, I went with the Chicago Cubs. They're at 79.5. I think that number is way too high for them. I think the Cubs are going to be bad this year. I really do. You look at their pitching staff. I know I was on the Kyle Hendricks to the Yankees train all offseason to an annoying point. I still think it's something that could potentially happen at the trade deadline just because the Cubs are going to be so bad. They traded Yu Darvish. They have no pitching outside of Hendricks. I think that it's going to be somewhat of a rebuilding year, especially if you look at the fact that Rizzo, Baez, and Bryant are all going to be free agents after this. I think they're going to decide, maybe one or two of those guys to keep. Another one or two of them are probably going to get shipped somewhere at the deadline because I really do think it's going to be a 2-team division race in the Central between the Cardinals and the Brewers. I just don't see this being the Cubs' year. I think Theo Epstein left for a reason. I think he knows they're not going to be very good. So I think 79.5 is way, way too high for the Cubs. I have them closer to 71, 72 wins.
Dude, the way they made it seem like when Epstein was leaving was that like they're like tanking for like Leiter. You know what I mean? Like they want like Kumar Rocker or Jack Leiter. Like it seems like they want to be like the first overall pick. Actually, well, no, that would be for next year.
Next
but
year.
for the next, they're both going back to college. Everyone knows that. But like, it literally seems like they want to tank to be like the worst team. Like that's what everyone was making this rebuild seem like. So like they're going to be in the likes of like the low 70s, high 60s, like feel like that's where they want to be because they're going to start once they start being too good. I think they're going to start shipping people out. Just like you said, they're going to, I don't know if it's going to be Rizzo, Bryant, or Baez, whoever it is. No, I 100% agree. There's no way they have more than 79 wins.
The only thing that scares me is that the Pirates are in this division, so you have to be aware that the Pittsburgh Pirates might win 5 or 10 games this year, give or take. They're going to be horrific, but I don't even know if they're as good as the Reds at this point. I'm not a big Reds guy. As much as we hate Trevor Bauer, him walking does obviously hurt them, but they still have Castillo, they still have Sonny Gray, and I'm not saying they're going to compete for a playoff spot by any means, but I think that's a team that's going to beat the Cubs their fair share of times too, in addition to the Cardinals and Brewers, who I happen to like. So I just think 79.5 is a big number. If this was even like 75, 76, I'd be maybe a little bit wary of it, but 79.5, I'd be shocked if this team wins 80 games. I really would.
Yeah, Nick, and you mentioned the Pirates. They were actually we were doing a second under, it was going to be them.
Oh, yeah. 64.5 for them is outrageously high.
What was it? I thought it was 57.
Was it 57? I thought on this website it was 64, and I could be making that up completely.
So I thought they were the lowest.
No, my fault. So the Orioles and the Rockies are second lowest at 64.5, and the Pirates are 58.5. So it's still, I think still you could probably take that under.
If you told me they're going to win 12 games this year, I'd be like, I could see it. Like they're going to be 12 and 140.
I believe you. Absolutely. All right. So wrap it up. We're going to go with one player prop each. So this is either a home run over under, a Cy Young, rookie of the year if you could find it, an MVP. Obviously, we could cop out and tell you take Mike Trout to win the MVP or Jacob deGrom to win the Cy Young, because in theory, that is still a good bet. You're getting plus money on, a guy who's never finished lower than 5th in the MVP, or a guy who's won 2 out of the last 3 Cy Youngs, and deGrom is only getting better. So those are good bets, but we're going to look for something with a little bit more value, maybe get a little bit bigger of a payout. If you want to gamble responsibly, just throw down, 10, 20 bucks, whatever it is. So Rob, what was your player prop?
So I've been adamant that this is the year of the pitcher. And I've said this so many times in other shows that I'm going to go with someone else after this, but I do think that this is a year for a pitcher MVP. And I really like this and this is just for the primary stat line, because that's what a lot of people look at when you do get like a pitcher for a Cy Young and a pitcher for an MVP. I think Giolito is going to have an incredible season. I think he's going to have 20 plus wins. He's going to have a sub 3 RA, and he's going to have right around that 200 strikeout mark. So I bet warily. I didn't even see him as an option to bet on for MVP.
Yeah, I'm trying to look at that right now.
I didn't see it. I was looking for, maybe I missed it, but I didn't even see it as an option. He was obviously an option for Cy Young, but for MVP, he wasn't there. So I do think that Giolito is going to be the Cy Young, and I think that he has potential to be the MVP just because I'm all in on this being the year of the pitcher. But besides that, because I've said that so many times, I'm going with Nolan Arenado. He's plus 1,200 for the NL MVP. And I think that if the Cardinals are going to win that division in competition with the Brewers, they have a great rest of the team. Absolutely. But he's got to play like Colorado Arenado. And I think that this is a great opportunity to show that people can be successful outside of Coors Field. And he can be he can show the world that like he is who we think he is. And I think he does that with an MVP season. So I like Nolan Arenado as my pick there.
No, I like that pick a lot. I stayed also in the NL, actually the NL Central for my MVP pick. And NL MVP, there's a reason that there's good value on these guys that we're naming. It's because if you look at the National League right now, not only is it stacked at the team level, you're talking about Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman just won the award last year. Lindor's in the National League now. Arenado, Juan Soto, Fernando Tatis, hopefully he's healthy. I saw he left his spring training game today. There are so many guys that could win this award in the National League, but I'm going to go with kind of the flip side of your answer and take Christian Yelich. Here's a guy who little Collinsworth there. Here's a guy. He won the MVP his first year in Milwaukee, 2018. 2019, I think there's a very good chance he wins it again if he doesn't go down with that knee injury and miss the last month of the season. He had an 1100 OPS, and Bellinger ended up overtaking him for the MVP. Had a bad 2020, but like we keep saying, I'm not going to put a ton of stock into a 60-game season where, these guys were in spring training, had that cut short, went home for months on end, didn't know when the season was going to start again, ramp up. Christian Yelich was far from the only star we saw have a down 2020, so I'm not going to worry. I know he's going to come back this year, and I do think it's important, like you said, for Arenado and the Cardinals, that the Brewers are going to be in the mix. I think they're going to, be in a division race with the Cardinals, and I do think it's tough to win an MVP on a bad team, especially when, the guys we talked about, Mookie, Lindor, I think they're going to be on good teams. So the fact that the Brewers are going to be good, the fact that the 2 full seasons we've seen Yelich play in Milwaukee were MVP worthy, I like him a lot. He's plus 1,200 as well. I'll go with Christian Yelich for my player prop.
Yeah, I like it. I mean, I kind of like how we have competing picks there, right in that NL Central. I think it's going to be one of the most interesting divisions out there, just because it is kind of like a 2-team race. And it's not like the Super Bowl. Jesus, it's not like the World Series winner is coming out of there. I don't think, but. Probably not, but I mean, it's cool to see, a division race. And I think you got those 2 stars going head to head there. That's awesome.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, it's gonna be really, really fun to watch. Yeah. All right. That's it. You got 10 picks there. Take them or leave them. Probably don't take them. I don't win bets a lot.
Leave them.
Have fun, gamble responsibly. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Remember to subscribe, like the video, retweet, whatever you want to do. We're getting close to the season here. Get all your homework done if you're still in school. Definitely do that. Rob, anything for the people?
Yeah, have some protein. Low carb diet. Just really think about your health. Drink some water.
This is one of the more complicated times of the year because it's a time where you're sitting down watching a baseball game every night, going to baseball games again. Maybe you're eating some salty foods, drinking some beers, stuff that's not good for you, but it's also cutting season still. You're talking about the beach in a couple months, depending on where you live. So just be wise, drink water.
Mix in water.
Yeah, a little bit of cardio, nothing crazy, but thanks for tuning in, guys. We'll see you next time.
All right. Peace.